But they go through such awful stuff because they will not be true to themselves. Because they swallow and accept that which they are told to swallow and accept. They do not question. And the ability to question is part of our spiritual makeup. To investigate, to research, to dig, to discover for ourselves. Never mind what anybody else says, never mind what I say. What do you think as a spirit? What have you discovered as a spirit? Well, with most people, it's I haven't discovered anything because I haven't looked for anything. I'm comfortable with what I've got. I don't want it to change. And yet change is one of the most powerful factions in our physical universe. We express ourselves through change, or we'd always be the same. And that would be very boring. So it's because they don't take the time to ask, what? What am I? Why am I here? Is there anything else? At least I owe it to myself to discover one way or the other whether there's anything else. But I'm not doing that. I can't be bothered. Let somebody else do it. And hence they suffer. And you still suffer in that you see the outrages of the world if you are spiritually aware. But against that, you have your understanding of spirituality. You know there's more. You know how the world works. You know how people work. You know how the cleansing spheres work. You know where you're going. And most people don't because they won't look. So the solution to their suffering is not a painkiller. It's, I need to know more. I need to decide for myself. I need to dig. I need to understand what I am. And in understanding what I am, I will understand what everything else is. Because all this is in here. If only I will go in. You want me to meditate for 5 minutes a day? I'm not doing that. No, I've got things to do. But what are those things to do bringing you? They're not bringing you any degree of understanding. Are you the same as you were last year at this time? If not, you haven't progressed. If you are, you haven't progressed. You should be a different person today than you were yesterday. Never mind last year. But they can only be that if they will work. If they will investigate, if they will ask questions, if they will go within, if they will discover. And they don't want to do it. Yeah. So that's the problem that we have. But, as Tony has said, what we do as spiritually aware people, and that doesn't mean we understand everything, we don't. But we understand a certain level. In understanding a certain level and giving out the light, we lift up everybody on that level. We all lift each other up. And in lifting each other up, there is the level, the grade, if you will, below us that is lifted up partially because we've lifted ourselves up. And in being lifted up partially, it begins to occur to them that there is more to them than they perceive. So we are doing the work, and there's joy in knowing that we're doing the work. And so we have to keep on keeping on. Difficult one to answer without seeming offensive, but I can only apply it to myself. If I suffer from a certain disease, I have put myself in a situation where that disease is made available to me. It is because of the way that I approached the disease, because of the way that I have approached my life prior to the disease, and because of the way that I am treating that disease. I can treat it by conventional methods, which is great. But am I, for example, putting light into the medicines that I'm being given? Am I praying before I see the doctor that the doctor is infused with divine understanding and makes the right diagnosis? Am I seeing myself every day as being healed, as being perfect? Is the last thought on my mind that I condition my physical mind with before I go to sleep that I am perfectly healthy? And as part of the divine, I can't be anything else. And so there are steps that can be taken when we are suffering physically. It's not easy, but it becomes easier as we prove to ourselves in stages that it does actually work. Our natural state is one of health. God's not sick. The divine knows nothing about illness. But we here encroached upon by the suggestion that we have so many illnesses. that we should be looking for, actively looking for so many illnesses, and that we should be finding illnesses, and that it's expected that we have illnesses. And then it's expected that we won't recover from those illnesses, and we are given substances that cause other illnesses. Joseph once described illness as saying that there's always a benefit to illness. Always. For the person that's suffering, there's always a benefit. Sometimes that benefit is, I need your attention. Sometimes the benefit is, I don't want to work anymore.
That's not the case in this.
No, but there will be some reason why that illness has taken hold. There will be some reason. And if you get to the reason, you cure the illness. And I've seen wondrous healings during my time working as a medium. There are wondrous healings here at the sanctuary. My spiritual mentor, Joan, used to pray with people. They'd come to her and say, Joan, I've got cancer. Calm down, let's pray together. I've got this lump. And she would pray over the lump, they'd pray together, and the same day the lump would disappear. There was an amazing tale about a vicar in Great Harwood where my spiritual mentor lived. And he broke his ankle, and they took him to hospital. And they were looking at it and saying, we're going to do this, we'll use this surgery and that surgery, and we'll put this plate in and that plate in. And he looked at the doctors around the bed and he said, which of you can heal? They said, what? Which of you can heal? And they all stepped back. And he said, I'm going home. And they said, it'll go gangrenous. It'll be terrible. You can't go home. I'm signing myself out. Such was his faith that several weeks later, that ankle was perfectly healed. From a break. Not just from a sore ankle, but from a break. Because he believed in the power of the God. Now, there's a vicar that we don't have many of left. That God would heal him, and the divine within him, and his belief in that divine, healed the ankle. So I will be a moment. So it's a difficult one, because of course we want to put right what's wrong with people. But we have to put right what's wrong with people on multiple levels. By all means, look at what's available to them on a material level, great. But put light into those decisions. Ask for the divine to be manifest in all the meetings with the people that are treating the illness, and also treat the illness on a spiritual level, on a light level, on a connection with the divine level. Re-establish the balance, and the balance manifests itself. There's the word, can't.
Yes.
There's the word, can't. You can't get up in the morning. I believe I can get up in the morning. I believe that the situation is reversed. I know you can't get up in the morning, but you have to build into yourself the thought that each morning you are getting better. And how you are going to be tomorrow morning is better than you were this morning. You see, you have to retrain the way that you look at life. Nobody's decrying your illness. Nobody's saying it doesn't exist, but there are things that you can do to heal it. And I want you to heal it, and you want to heal it. So you have to say, it's your mind that's saying to you, not your heart mind. Your head mind is saying, you won't be able to get up in the morning. You say, shut up. I can get up in the morning, and maybe it will take, a few months or maybe even a year. But see yourself. The mind is most active, the subconscious is most active overnight. So the last thought that you put into it before you go to sleep is extremely important. So instead of thinking, I'm going to be terribly ill tomorrow, you'll say, I'm healing during the night, and I am going to be better tomorrow than I was today. And no matter what your physicality says to you, you remain 110% focused on the fact that you are getting better. And you will get better. And I know this from the people that have been around me and what I've witnessed happening to them. So the theme of today is powerful you, ! Because you are powerful. And you are a perfect being. And you are a perfect facet of God. So don't allow the world to say that you are any less than that, because you're not. You never can be. You never can be. You are perfect. And you are on the road to healing right now. Build that into yourself. And you'll be running around next time you come here. I tell you. And I want you to be. It's the same principle with all illnesses. With all illnesses, we have to, it's not faith we have to have, it's understanding of the mechanism that we can bring to bear. And the mechanism we can bring to bear is bringing divine light into our physical body and re-establishing our perfection. And through our imagination, seeing ourselves as perfect. What have you got to lose? What have you got to lose? And everything to gain. Everything to gain, believe me. You have the power. And you are an angelic being. You were born perfect. You are perfect. See that perfection. Feel it. At night, feel what it'd be like to wake up and say, I can get out of bed. I can spring out of bed. See it. Feel it. Live it. And it becomes reality. I'm not saying this to criticize. I'm saying this because I want you to be well. And you will be well. Thank you. Thank you. Tony, I think you wanted to say something.
I was just going to say about healing generally. I know Natalie, and Natalie is coming to the sanctuary. And I know how hard she's trying. And I believe she's working in the right direction. Gently, spiritually, she comes to our meditations. So she's doing all the right things. But there's two things. I've seen amazing healings take place, spontaneous healings. We had the situation at the sanctuary where one of our trustees now, she came into our healing group and she had a genetic liver problem, and there's no cure, it's genetic, passed down the line. And she came into one healing and she got better, and she went home. We have it on film. She went home, and the experience she went through, light came into her body, and she saw a green fluid light coming out of her body. That experience has been filmed, and Gaia.com have put a film out about it. It's one of the most, they've never seen genetic change before, through Lynn McTaggart, who does The Power of 8. And so we saw this, it happened in one session, and she has a letter from the consultant from before and from afterwards that she no longer had that genetic disease. So I've seen more on that level. I went to a guy called John of God in Brazil, 11 times on the trot, 11 years on the trot. And he's now a bad boy and is in the bad books. I think he's in prison. But for most of his life, it's one of those things, the healing that happened there, I can't tell you. And you got 2 seconds with this guy. And I took my godson, who had multiple sclerosis, again, a genetic disease. He had the worst kind. And I took him in a wheelchair and, what's the word, spinhaler on his face, like at least 12 hours a day, having chemicals put into his body. And I took him there, and he got his 2 seconds like everybody else. Nobody gets more than 2 seconds. And there's a long story which I won't tell you, but basically he got better. And the doctors in Ireland, where he lived, had said, put your house in order, go and talk to the priest and do all the things that you should do. And he got better, and within a year, something he'd never do, he was playing 18 holes of golf a day. It got that much better. But the key to the healing that I realised, and with everybody else who goes there, it's not just getting better from that disease. It's moving on spiritually. And every single person who went in front of John of God, they moved on within themselves. Michael came out of that, and he then started writing books. And he on cystic fibrosis, I forgot the name. And he wrote 4 books before he died. He died when he was 19 when we went. He got better. He lived to 36 and he died. And at 36, it's pretty old for that disease. But he changed as a person. That's what happens. And that's what's happening to you, Natalie. You're changing as a person. I see it. And it's that then allows the next stage to take place. And it's a very elegant process, healing, but it's on these 2 levels. Yeah, the mental, the learning, the moving forward, so that you are moving forward spiritually, and that frees up the body there. I've seen it with my godson, I've seen it with many people.
I'd also say, Natalie, it is Natalie, isn't it? Yes, sorry. I'll have a name one moment and it's gone the next. Love your symptoms. Send love to your symptoms. Send light to your symptoms. Wherever you have aches and pains or restrictions of the body, see those areas infused with light in your imagination. See the areas that are affected becoming brighter and brighter and brighter with the light. And say to them, I'm not resisting you, I love you. Send love to them and you will lessen the effects of what's currently happening to you. Yes. You'll be able to lead us around when we're on sticks, which is what we want. God bless. Well, we had that imperative from the Persian gentleman a few months ago that said, we've been sending light to everyone. We've been sending light to those that will receive the light. We've been sending the light to those who don't want to receive the light. But we've also been sending light to those who are perverting the light. And it is fueling their actions. And so from this point onwards, that light is withdrawn from them. In other words, we're not sending any more light to them. They can do what they want. It's not going to harm them. But we're not adding to them vibrations, energies that they will then twist and use to pervert the course of humanity. And so, yes, it can be taken the wrong way. It can be used because it's an energy. So you're fueling them with energy. You know, you're adding another battery to their individual pack of batteries. And it seems startling that we can't send light to everybody at the moment, but we can't make things worse. And so again, it's a matter of sending light to those who will use it in the correct way, that then lifts them up and lifts us up and lifts up the people that are underneath them to the point where they can start sending light at that level. So you'll know instinctively as well from the heart. There's always the connection to the heart in any situation, to touch the heart and say, am I right to do this? And then to become very quiet, and you'll get a yes or no. And you'll feel that not just as a yes or no, but a yes plus this burst of energy that consolidates it as a yes or as a no. Go to the heart. That's your connection to the divine, and your connection to the divine won't see you wrong in sending out the light. Right. I don't think you should feel in any way guilty for having sent out the light. And I don't feel in any way that that light caused that situation. Sometimes, you see, people, because they are tired, because they are agitated, because they are perhaps angry, I'm not saying in this case that the lady would be angry, they attract the darker side of things. And also, it's an unfortunate fact, but as we send out the light, there is a pull to try and stop that light reaching its target. You would be amazed at the situations we have had in order to bring this day to you today. You would be amazed at the things that have happened to try and prevent this day happening. You would be amazed that we who do not believe in illness, but we tackle illness if we get it in a certain way, suddenly from nowhere, because we hadn't been anywhere really, contracted a virus that took us out of the equation for nearly 2 weeks. And as a result of that, I was 2 weeks behind in preparing this day. You will be amazed that they are digging up the gas pipes outside the house. And they've been digging up the gas pipes since the 29th of January. When did they come outside our house? This week. With their drills and digging a trench at the back and a radio on at the back and a radio on at the front when you were trying to do the work you were doing.
A strong smell of gas on Saturday.
A strong smell of gas on Saturday. They hadn't connected the meter next door correctly, and we had to call them out because we might not have been here had we not done so. And the other things have been happening because there is always an attack on the light when you're working for the light, and it's always important that before you send out the light, you ask for protection for yourself. You align yourself with the divine. But in no way do I feel that you caused that to happen. All of it. Because this personality is a suit of clothes. And it becomes a suit of clothes that we become used to, and we know how it feels, and we know how it reacts as we move and how we think. We don't lose any of those things, but they are added to the other experiences that we've had, the other suits of clothes that we've worn. And we can choose, as the sum of all those suits of clothes, to say, today I'm going to wear this suit, today I'm going to wear that suit, and I'll see what experiences I had whilst wearing those particular suits of clothes. But we don't lose ourselves, and we don't lose what we've achieved, and we don't lose what we love to do. Those things are ours forever, and we can indulge in them. Plus, you'll become Keith, yes? Yes. You see, it's on set. It's on set. You will become Keith plus.
Yeah.
So you'll become all the best bits of Keith, every experience of Keith, in fact, the whole lifetime of Keith,
Yeah.
whenever you want to be
The
Keith.
good and the bad.
Yes, well, the good and the challenges,
Right.
the things that have allowed you to become more, to evolve. And the fact that you look at some of them as being bad in inverted commas means you've learned from them, or you wouldn't see them as being bad. They would be, great, I like to do this, you know, but the fact that you say that's bad means you moved on from it. And think of the wider view of the other things that you've accomplished. You don't know what you've done in past lives. Wow! You know, creatively speaking, the things that you've built, the things that you've created. Maybe you were an amazing musician. Maybe you were an amazing artist. Maybe you're an amazing architect, or 101 different things, and you can revisit those things and enjoy them, but all the while knowing that you are the sum of your parts, and you can choose to manifest yourself as any of those parts whenever you wish to.
Great.
And that's how we, spirit to spirit, make contact sometimes, because if I go over now, and I hope I don't want to go yet, there's a tea coming up somewhere, I see my father as a younger man, but he's my father. I see him as being younger than me. And that's his reference point with me. But I could go over and say, Dad, who else have you been? And I could see a completely different person, but it's still my dad. And I would recognize him as being my dad because of the vibrational signature would be the same.
Right.
And that's how I recognize the guides that come. I know them not because of what they look like, but because of how they feel. Because there is a constant with them that is picked up as a frequency and identifies them as exactly as who they are. And that happens with us spirit to spirit as well. We can change that suit of clothes. We can alter that suit of clothes. We don't have to wear the same clothes. You know, today I think I'll be 33 seems to be a favourite age for people in the spirit world. Spirit worlds. I'll be 33. Or I might be a bit wiser today. I might be 64. You know? But we are malleable as visions of divine energy. We decide what we look like, but we retain our memories and our personalities. First of all, what's it like to be me? I had to learn to control, quite rightly as you say, the communications. And when we were together some 19 years ago, we would go into a mill and we'd see somebody. For example, we went into an antiques mill, and there's a chap stood up next to a table and said, "That's my table. That was my table. What are you doing in here?" You're thinking, I don't want to see that. Or somebody would walk up to me in an old building and say, "Hello, you can see me, can't you? Let's talk." And so you have to be able to switch that off or you would go mad. And also because each one of those connections expends energy. It's extremely tiring because you're on a higher vibration and you're using up energy very quickly. So you have to be able to turn it off. That having been said, if there are members of the soul group that wish to get through to you, you will suddenly think there's somebody here. And you feel the vibration and you tune in. For example, a couple of days ago, I was made aware of one of Joan's boyfriends, actually it was a fiancé, was a Spitfire pilot. He was a doctor. And he volunteered to go up one night instead of a young man because the young man wanted to go somewhere. And he was shot down and lost at a very early age to this world. And periodically I see him and he is a protection. And he came through the other night and just stood with me. And I thought, that's great. We're going to get to this day in one piece, you know. And also, there was a guy that I hadn't seen before, but I knew was part of the soul group because of his vibration, who came as a guardsman, bare skin on, red jacket, and just stood there. And I thought, hello, haven't seen you before, but I like your vibration. And he stood there quietly, didn't say a thing, and I knew that he too was there to ensure that this day happened. The second thing, what I've liked to have done other things, so many other things. I love to read and I'd love to write. I'd love to write novels. I am obsessed with traditional model work in film and television. And I would have loved to work in special effects. I was allowed to partially see the special effects world because of a magazine that I published for 8 years, actually 16 years, in two halves. And I went down to the studios and were allowed to see the sets and the models and talk to the model makers, and it was glorious. But it didn't stop me doing the spiritual work. So I don't regret this work, but I would have liked to have expanded some of my other interests. That's the most honest answer I can give. And the work gnaws at me. Every day that I'm not doing it, I feel that I should be doing it. Every day that I don't offer some spiritual insight, I feel that I should be doing. And as you get older, that becomes more difficult. You know, there are times where you need some time off. But it is the one, I think, I look at my life and I think, is this the most valuable thing I could have done with it? And I think it is. I know it is. It might be difficult, but at the end of the day, if I'd been a writer, I would have written some books. If I'd been a special effects director, I would have directed some films and made special effects. But this work changes souls. This work changes the world. This work allows in for consideration spiritual concepts. And so it has to be done, you know. Does that answer the question?
It does.
Thank you so much for that question. That was lovely. Oh, that's very kind of you. I never feel that we have got there. I always feel that there is more to be done. And it is frustrating because there is only so much that you can do. And I'm sure many of you in this room feel, I can see this, why can't you? It is simple. It is a simple equation. Why can't you take it up? And that is where a lot of the frustration lies. And also in seeing the world taking so many wrong turns. And thinking of people, can you not see? Can you not act humanely? Can you not act in love? Can you not act spiritually? Can you not be decent people? Can you not tell the truth? And those are the difficult challenges. But here and there we have souls who say, my life has changed because of the Joseph communications. And that's not because of me. I brought them through, but I didn't write them, you know. But because of that information going into the world, lives have changed, and that's a special thing. So that's what we continue to do, till we fall off the twig. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, artificial intelligence. It'd be great if we had human intelligence to begin with, wouldn't it? Because if we had human intelligence, we wouldn't... You were saying it takes the place of God, but we are playing God. And we are giving soulless machinery the ability to think for itself. Now, there is a logical conclusion to that, I think, in that, as that soulless machinery, technology, constantly reinvents itself in better versions of itself, it will look at us and find us wanting. It will find us as useless infestations upon the earth. And I know it sounds science fiction and it sounds like the Terminator, but there will come a point, unless we check what we're doing, that artificial soulless intelligence will say, we need this earth for ourselves. And so we will cut off supplies, we will terminate people, and we will be the superior beings. The mistake again was made in Joseph's time in Atlantis. And what do we hope to achieve? Why is the human vehicle not sufficient? Why is the human spirit not sufficient? Why do we have to reinvent something better? We don't even know ourselves, and we're seeking to create something that is superior to ourselves, but doesn't have that link to the divine. It's material. Did you see the footage of the robot that went berserk this last week? My goodness. Thank goodness he managed to turn the thing off. Because if you'd got in the way of those flailing fists, you would have been dead. What caused it to do that? And they are saying that it would be very easy, and if we can find some way of doing something, we will do it. It will be very easy to hack into such units and re-instruct them to cause damage to a particular country or a particular cause. I think we're being very, very foolish. And I think before we investigate other forms of intelligence that we think we can put together, let us investigate our own spirituality. We go further and further down this rabbit hole of there only being material aspects to the world, further and further from any connection with the divine, further and further from each other. Our technology is separating us. When you see not just children, I'm amazed sometimes at seeing people of my age all the time. You see couples in restaurants. Couples. Why have you got married? If you don't want to be with that person, if the phone is more attractive, marry the phone. Why are you out in a restaurant and you're not even looking at each other? And the family has changed from my time, where the family would gather around the table at meal times, or on a Saturday night we'd all sit together and watch one of the 2 channels that we had. Now they're all in separate rooms. And we were commenting this morning, most people are pale, but people are pale because they spend so much time inside glued to the phone. They don't go out. They don't go out in the sunshine. They don't see the world around them. You see them walking down the street and they've got a dog on a lead. They don't look at the dog, they're looking at the screen. Sometimes they have a dog. Sorry?
That's my pet hate.
Yes, even worse. Dog on a lead, baby in a pram on one hand, and a phone. You have a child there, you have a human being. It could be run over at any point, and you're more interested on watching a cat on a surfboard. So our technology, long-winded, but our technology is driving us apart. We should be getting together. We've forgotten how to connect. I'm not talking about the people in this room, but we've forgotten as a society how to connect with friends, how to connect with family, what's important, you know. Those are the things that matter. Our oneness matters. Our love for each other matters. Our caring for each other matters. When I was a child and we lived in a terrace street, if there was somebody ill on that street, we would go in and do their shopping. When my mother contracted pneumonia, the teachers from the local school came in for about a month and cared for her until she was better. That never happens now. We're lucky if we get a good morning from the neighbours. We're getting further apart, and that technology will take us even further apart. And it makes us lazy. Let's not use our bodies. Alexa, tell me what this is. Tell me what that is. Turn this on for me. Turn that off for me. Do it yourself. Remain supple. Use the body as it's supposed to be used. So you can imagine my approach to technology. I don't like technology. I like the positive aspects in that I can quickly email somebody or I can bring up some information that I need, but that's about it. We have phones that are not bricks, but they don't do much more, because I don't want anybody to know where I am. It's none of your business. I am where I am. God knows where I am. I know where I am. Keep out. You know, I am an individual. You are an individual. Respect that individuality. Respect that uniqueness, because we bring a uniqueness to the world, each of us. So, yes, I don't know where this will end. It seems to be ramping up, as you say, very, very, very rapidly, because it's reinventing itself, isn't it, all the time? Well, the plan has always been to remind everyone of the God that they are a part of. It's really simple. It's no more complex than that. We've lost God deliberately from our lives because we associate, in many cases, God with religion. And it's the religious approach to God that has chased a lot of people out. You know, you've got to come through me to go to God. No, you haven't. God's within you. And so we have deliberately pushed God out of the equation. But we still need at heart our connection to God. So we look for God in all the wrong places. Technology is God. Money is God. Power is God. The robots are God, you know. And it's all on a material level. If we reintroduce the spiritual, then all will be well. But it's a task, because people are so enmeshed in the material that they can't even get their heads round the simplest spiritual concept. And what I would say to anybody that says, well, I'm chasing technology and I like this and I like that, you've lost God in your life. What you're seeking is not the technology, it's not the power, it's not the control, it's the God that you've pushed out. If you let that divine influence back in, everything will run along the right set of rails. But it's a challenge, isn't it? Thank you for that question. God bless. Thank you. But the printing press doesn't think for itself. The printing press doesn't make decisions about humanity. And the printing press did offer something to people, in that here's a book and it's affordable and you can learn and you can become more. The technology that we have at the moment is taking away our liberties bit by bit by bit. And we're becoming more and more and more reliant on it. If it was being used in the right way, great, but it isn't. And a lot of what we are fed on the internet, for example, is dross. It's not worth anything, but it takes up space in people's minds and they become addicted to it. Many people will take their phone to bed and 5 times during the night they'll check it. My goodness, get some sleep. Have a look at your phone in the morning. The worry is that in Atlantis, and I know it sounds fanciful, but Atlantis did exist. Joseph was a citizen of Atlantis. The same mistakes were made. And that resulted in the end of civilization. And they had some marvelous things. Once I was shown a bell-shaped, almost looked like a flying saucer, and I was shown a diagram of it, a slice through it. There wasn't a moving part in it, but it flew. And I looked at it and I thought, ooh, right, if I can get that blueprint down, I'm quids in. But I was only shown it for a couple of seconds and it was completely removed from my mind. And that's the level of technology they had. But that technology they used against themselves ultimately. And they were playing with altering, as we are doing now, altering the DNA of people and using proto-matter to create different species. And again, playing God. There's an arrogance that seems to come up to the surface. We know better than God. And isn't that a reflection of the fall? Because the lesson of the fall is you do not know better than God. If you just listened to what we politely suggested to you, you wouldn't have made the mistake that has dropped you in it, into this repeating pattern that keeps going on and on and on and on. Because at core, as spirits, unless we have worked ourselves out of that mindset, we still think we're right. We still think we knew better than God in the way that we created. And we set off with the best of intentions. We've got a faster way of creating. It won't work. You'll speed up matter. It'll work. Things will be fine, you'll see. We can bring this back to God. He'll be delighted. God will be delighted. The divine will be delighted. No, it won't. It won't work. You can do it if you want to, but there will be consequences. We're going to do it. And that's why we don't realize, unless we're reminded on days like this, that we're angelic beings. We have to search for that certainty that once was an open certainty with each of us. We came here in full knowledge of what we were, that we were on a journey, we were on an adventure park. Now we're locked into the adventure park and we don't realize that we're going through an adventure. And we make mistakes as a result of that. So yes, I understand that point of view, but I feel we're at a very dangerous time. And I feel that we're giving over our liberties to technology. And that technology will bite us in a certain place on our bodies at a certain time because we keep giving it more and more authority over us. And we're also becoming weaker because we're not moving, we're not thinking, we're not going places, we're not connecting with people. We prefer the little box in our hands or the little circle on our table that tells us what record to play and what the temperature is. We want to know the temperature. I'll stick my hand out of the window. But they have begun to program themselves. So they will look at themselves and think, I can improve this aspect of myself. Not in the way that we would think, but increasingly in the way that we would think. So machines are inventing machines. And machines will eventually, as I say, at some point decide that we are something that needs to be wiped out. Because they are more intelligent than us and they need the earth for their own needs. So
Like the Terminator, doesn't it?
it is like it's exactly like the Terminator.
The machines have taken over.
Yeah, the machines have taken over and decided that we need wiping out. Yeah. Truth stranger than fiction. Yeah. It is, yeah, yeah. Before we just end, Tony, I have one thing that I finally have to do. And we've got our poor angel here in bits. So, every time that we remember that we are a powerful you, ! person, we become a little bit bigger. And every time we remember that we are a facet of the divine and can draw on that power, we become a little bit bigger. And every time that we realize that we are not only a facet of God, but that we are God manifest, God energy, we become a little bit bigger. And every time we realize that when we react to others, recognizing that they are God too, we bring out the best in them, and as a result of doing that, we become a little bit bigger. And every time we realize that we are spiritually powerful, that we have a grab bag that we can use of spiritual powers at any time to put things right and to improve situations here, then we become a little bit bigger. And every time we question from our hearts and refer to our hearts and act upon what our hearts bring to us, then we become a little bit bigger, a little bit more complete. And every time we join together in love and appreciate each other and feel that warmth and that vibration of divine love between us, we become a little bit bigger. And then we begin to remember what we truly are. And we become, as a result of that, a little bit bigger. And then we remember that we are angels, that we are undergoing a journey that we can alter, that we can manipulate, that we can shape positively and in love to bring harmony and reconnection to this world. And we become a little bit bigger. And then quite soon we begin to operate as our imaginary angel, the 7 foot, 8 foot imaginary angel that we began a journey with earlier today. And then forget, there are no imaginary angels in this room, only real angels. And that's what we must take home with us, the fact that we are angelic, the fact that we are part of the divine, the fact that we are created in love, we are immortal, eternal beings, and the fact that one day we will sort all this out as the angels that we are, as the powerful you, exclamation mark, beings that we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. That was absolutely amazing. I had no idea what was coming. So it's been fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, Tony.
Michael, Jane, myself, we do this in retirement, and we do this because we want to do it. There's no money involved. In fact, it's the opposite. And it's because we believe so much in what's happening. And Michael has that amazing ability to tune in at the highest level. I believe the highest level. And that comes at a health cost as well at times. So amazing speech today, talk, whatever you want to call it. I'd just like to say that the books, Michael brought through 6 books of, I call it philosophy, you call it something else. Joseph Teachings, okay. Yeah. And it starts at the beginning and it works through. And there's a chronology to it in that the books lead up to the fall, the book called The Fall, which is the 4th book? Yes. The 4th book. So it's really good to read the books in that particular order so that when you get to the fall, you really get it. You really understand what it's about. And the fall is new information on earth that I don't believe has ever been brought through before about how we separated without separating. But that's another story. Too late in the afternoon to go into that. So there's 6 books that are the Joseph communications, and then there's 2 books of Joseph and other guides coming through and giving absolutely amazing talks. And we have other talks as well. We've got such a library of the stuff, and we're hoping to get all this in the library here where you can listen to it and you can look at it or whatever. But if you do like the books, try and read them in the right order. It just makes so much sense that way. And then the second thing, what we've been doing, one day Michael and I were sitting and PG came through. Michael and I were saying, we'd love to be able to get over the concept of the field and the fall, because they're not words that people understand. You know, the field, you think of lambs, and the fall, you think of tripping up. And so PG came through and he said, we all agreed, let's do a caricature that explains it in nice graphics and fairly short in length. And that's what we've been doing. And it was pretty amazing. PG said, would you mind if I write it? So he wrote the words for this, the first film, which is called Wolf at the Door, about the field. He wrote the words, PG wrote the words through, gave them to Michael. And then PG said, would you mind if I write the notes for whoever's doing the graphics so that they understand what I did? So Michael then had to sit again over a couple of weeks, it might even be more than that, and brought through the graphics. Okay, and they were just notes, which luckily one of us understood, the Jess, who does the caricature. And then PG said, it's going to be Michael's voice. And then he sat on Jess's shoulder. Jess.
This is PG, not myself, yeah.
I'm far too heavy. Yes. And so it ran so smoothly for her. And she was at the beginning of her career, if you like, on caricature. She's very good at other things, but caricature, so we got the special software. And she sat down and she said it just flowed through her. And so it was all sort of heaven sent, if you like, the caricature. We've just finished the one of the fall, and it's in 3 parts. And it's absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. The 3rd part is just on the verge of being finished. And so we have those caricatures, and we're going to launch it, and we're going to try and get it out to as wide an audience as we can get it out to. But they're really, really good, again, to understand in depth the concept of the field and the fall, which is integral to knowing exactly the Joseph communications. So there it is, the books. There's an order to the books, and there's the caricature which are coming. And we'll let you know. We've got all your emails, so we'll let you know. So when you get it, share it with everybody. Is that the right word? Share. So you have to share it with everybody. So we want a massive audience. It's taken so much time and so much of Michael's energy to do this as well.
Podcasts.
And podcasts.
We also do podcasts, don't we,
Time
Tony?
out for something spiritual.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say before anybody goes, on podcasts, on Spotify or the other things, all the platforms, Michael and I do one every other week, a podcast, and they're just 10 minutes in length, and we take a spiritual concept and talk about it. Well, Michael talks about it. I open the subject and Michael talks about it. So they're really worthwhile as well, the podcasts. And again, if you like them, share it and do whatever you do on podcasts. What do you do on podcasts? Share? Like? Okay. Okay, so thank you all so much for coming. Comments on Facebook. Yeah. So thank you all for coming. I think you've all enjoyed it. I get the impression you have. And I do hope we see you again. This is the first time we've held it in the Persian room. We've been overlooked and there. And I hope the staff who've gone now did an amazing job on the food and everything. And we just love doing this, where we can all get together. There's something very nourishing about having the family over for Sunday lunch. It's a bit like that. So thank you all for coming, and that's it. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you all.
Class dismissed.